Hi everyone, this video is going to give a bit of balance regarding the SESRO plan. Some information from GARD. So Mike Gregg will join me. He's the finance lead for GARD. He joins me at the village hall in a minute. You'll see we took a look round the presentation by Thames Water. I thought actually there was some really good information. I thought the people there were doing their best to be informative. I thought I'd bring some information from GARD's side because Thames Water have had plenty of opportunities to feed you with their information. So here it is. Thanks for watching. So joined today here with Mike Gregg. I've got some questions. I've got them written out here. Hopefully you can answer them for us. This is about the financial side of things. So effectively, is the project still cost effective given the fact that we've gone from 2.2 billion to sort of 6.6 billion? Is it still cost effective?
Absolutely not. Thank you, Paul, for inviting me along and giving me the opportunity to explain this. So as you've already said, it was justified based on a cost of 2.2 billion. And at that time, the margin between it, SESRO, and the next nearest slight scheme, which was the Severn Thames transfer, was between 600 and 800 million. Right. And we've now got an increase of 4.4 billion. So that's sort of at least 5.5 times larger than the tipping point was to STT. Right. And so absolutely not is the answer to your question.
And what do you know what is behind that increase in that number? Like, 4 billion extra. Where's that come from?
I think the only explanation, and I've just been inside talking to Neville Muncaster and the project manager and asked them in effect that question, is that the Gate 2 cost estimate, which is the 2.2 billion, was a load of rubbish. Right. They had not done the proper work. They talk about all the work they've done since, but they should have come up with a better estimate. And indeed, GARD predicted that the cost would roughly double. So going back to Gate 2, which is only just over 2 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. So, what else do you think might be influencing the cost? And is it likely to increase from 6 billion up until build date? I mean, these things tend to increase.
Absolutely, they are going to increase. So the first and key point is what's being consulted on today is the pre-development consent order, pre-DCO order design, and that's moved on in. Because the Gate 3 design was frozen in October 2024, so we're now 13 months down the line.
Right.
And there's been a huge number of major design changes, none of which were in Gate 3. So my estimate is that we're probably looking at something in the range 9 to 10 billion now.
Right.
So there's a bit of inflation in between. But also most of it is the design changes. So just as one example, there's now a floating solar farm on the reservoir, which wasn't there before.
And that's been financed in now. That's been costed in.
That needs to be costed in. It's not in the 6.6, and neither all these other changes.
Okay, and is that in addition to the solar farm that they're looking to relocate behind West Ham?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It's not just a replacement for...
No. There's additional costs for relocating the solar farm. Because, in fact, multiple solar farms. There's 3 that they're extinguishing, and they need to relocate those. And they're looking at the land is actually in Garford, but between Garford and Hannet.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. The question we've got: what is the impact potentially on customer bill? Because clearly, this isn't going to be for free. There's got to be some sort of cost increase. And my understanding is that the government has said, this will land with the customer. What sort of impact do you think might have?
Okay. Well, the impact is huge. And it's multi-layered. So there's the water industry operates on something called a return on regulated capital basis, and so actually all the companies want big assets on which they can then earn a return. The return is an inflation-adjusted return of just over 4% currently, and so. Well, if you just take the 10 billion, that's the first figure, but it goes up in line with inflation. So it's 400 million per annum going up in line with inflation, payable actually over the 250-year life of the reservoir. So it's huge. My calculate, and because of the return on capital, the customer pays about 3 times over for the return. And in fact, the asset is hardly depreciated, so you just continue paying. At the same rate. My calculation is that each household in the Thames Water water supply area will be paying sort of an additional £60 a year.
Okay, so £60 more on everybody's bill.
So indefinitely. So £60 one year, £60 plus inflation the next year, and so on and so on.
But how does that work? I mean, we're paying £60 to fund a project that's going to finance and somebody else will gain from.
Well, it's a complicated finance question. There's elements of debt and there's elements of equity.
Okay.
The debt gets an interest cost.
Yeah.
The equity, which is the shareholders, get their profit. So we are paying
Exactly.
the profit to. And it may be Thames Water, they may be a special purpose vehicle, which is the analogue that they had for the Thames Tideway Tunnel. But it doesn't really matter, it's water company shareholders who are making the profit.
Okay, all right, thank you. So thanks to Mike Gregg there from Guard. I thought he gave a good in-depth sort of view on the finances and how things don't seem to have been reviewed in the last few editions. You know, so we've seen an increase from 100 billion litres to 150 billion litres, and yet there's no review of the finances. The purpose of these videos isn't really to make a decision one way or the other. It's to try and give some balance to the argument that's been happening. So I'd invite Steve Reed, who's the Secretary of State for the Environment, to really dig into some of these numbers, because is the project really justified still? With an organisation who financially can put out a lot of PR, a lot of information, and the smaller organisations trying to give some balance. And that's all we're trying to do here. This is all I want really, is a good discussion to be had. And people just think, you know, this might not impact you today, but it may well in the future. There's also a lot of land grab going on, and a lot of smaller villages and places that may not be aware of the impact that's going to happen to them. So, for example, we know that Ardington Wick will have lorries coming through it just to gain access. We know that Featherbed Lane has additional access. We also know that there's additional access coming in from Hannet. So, you know, there's a lot of places that perhaps are sleepwalking into this, not realising it's going to impact them in the way that it will be. And if you think, hey, you know, a big pond at the side of the village isn't going to affect me, the weather and the climate change won't bother me, the potential for additional million tourists won't affect me, the 10-year build, noise, dust, pollution won't bother me, then great, it's not going to bother you. But, you know, if you think it might have some sort of impact, I would say speak out now, because this really is your last chance. If this consultation's passed, then that opens the door just to start building. And let's face it, this isn't going to be 10 years before they start. They will start this straight away. So have a think. What's it mean to you? Do you think you should make a point? And thank you for your feedback. It's appreciated. I know that some of you found these useful, at least just to get you thinking about, you know, whether this is going to impact you and should you do anything about it. That's all the intention was on these videos, is really just to bring some awareness to this is happening on our doorstep. And there's a big organisation that's going to make a lot of money from this. Yes, we need the water, but do we need the reservoir to be the size that they're proposing? And are there some better ideas that we can do with an overall scheme that would help? And we'll see if we can get the Secretary of State out here to come and visit. That would be nice. Come and see really on the ground what the impact of this project will be. Don't forget the land grab that's going on here. It's increasing all the time. And you can fit Wantage, Grove, Hannet, Drayton, Marcham, Steventon, all of those into the area that we're talking about. This isn't a small project, it's massive. And finally, I guess the question for now is the reservoir needed at all? Well, let's assume we do need to hold some water and it's part of a larger transfer scheme where we're getting water from Wales, where additional pipes will be needed to bring that water into the Severn River, additional transfer pipes from the Severn River across to any reservoir that may be proposed here, and then onward pipes onto Kent, where the water is really needed right now. And of course, the water may well be needed in future in Oxfordshire, but for right now, it's a storage for Kent, let's face it. You know, do we need the reservoir the size it is proposed for today? Or could actually the size of it be reduced considerably? Maybe this is an option to be considered. So thank you for watching. I hope it's been some use to you. We'll try and put out a few more videos on request. If you've got some more information you'd like, we'll try and dig into that. Hopefully we'll get hold of some more members of the Guard organisation, and we'll put some more videos out with information they've got that hopefully gives a sort of balanced view on things. You know, I don't want to really fall down one side or the other, because we need water, there's no doubt, but do we need it on this scale, I guess, is the question. Thanks again. Thanks for watching.